More about all this. Alex Traiman is here, CEO and Jerusalem bureau chief of the Jewish News Syndicate. I first want to get your reaction, Alex, as you were listening to this press conference or you've read the comments about sort of wiping the slate clean in the Gaza Strip, rebuilding and creating sort of the Riviera of the Middle East. As you heard that, how did you react?
Oh, thanks, Marni. Yeah, I was in the Oval Office yesterday in the White House during the briefing. And, it's clear that Israel's really won the war and that the Gaza Strip has become a demolition site. It's become that because Hamas embedded itself among the civilian population in Gaza. Israel methodically destroyed most of the Gaza Strip. And I think that Trump spoke with some level of just reality, which is that this isn't a good place for anybody to live right now. It's going to take years to clean it up. And he said what the Biden administration others would not say, which is that Gazans have the basic humanitarian right to leave the Strip and that the international community, including the Arab neighbors, should facilitate a different type of rebuilding for Palestinians living in Gaza.
So, Alex, you don't think this is such a crazy idea?
Well, it would be a crazy idea if the Gaza Strip wasn't in the shape that it's in. But quite frankly, I mean, Israel has destroyed much of the Gaza Strip. And right now it's pouring rain in Israel. It's cold. And Gazans are living in tents. They moved back up to the north last week as part of the temporary ceasefire arrangement, only to find out that they didn't have homes to go to. So how come not one Gazan has been allowed to leave the Strip since the war began? And I think that Trump is really just speaking out of a sense of human decency and reality, which is let's build now something better for the Gazan people to have a future that's not filled with conflict with Israel.
How has this reverberated through the Israeli community?
Well, I think Israelis are very happy about it. This has been a very, very difficult conflict over several decades in which you've had almost parity between the number of Jews living in this small strip between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea and Palestinian Arabs. Moving 1.8 million Arabs out of the territory really changes the entire demographic equation and makes the Jews the overwhelming majority in the land. It makes the Palestinians a much smaller ethnic minority. It cancels any of the horrific and false accusations of apartheid. And it I believe, is going to be the beginning of the end of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict for all time.
What happens, though, to all of the refugees? I mean, if Egypt doesn't take them, some of the other countries have said that we don't want to take them. And then you sort of, in this idea, you develop the Gaza Strip and it becomes this like waterfront, destination. I mean, affordability, I feel like we're talking in dreamland here, but like affordability, where do all of these refugees who are living in rubble now go?
Right. So if this wasn't President Trump, I think it would be a more pertinent question. But you see how Trump is threatening trade tariffs on Canada, on Mexico, on other countries. Egypt and Jordan both receive significant amounts of U.S. Foreign aid. And both of them rely on that foreign aid. And especially if you have now the United Arab Emirates and maybe Qatar and maybe Saudi Arabia all putting in money to give Egypt, Jordan, and maybe other countries to build temporary and then permanent housing for Palestinians in Gaza, you may have a solution. Trump has a lot of leverage over Egypt and Jordan. The president, the king of Jordan, King Abdullah II, is supposed to come to the White House on February 11th. And I think we'll see then whether Trump is able to use that leverage and get the king to reverse his position.
It's certainly an interesting prospect. In the midst of all this, though, priority one is still getting the hostages out and stopping the war, the ceasefire. What came of that in this conversation? Any progress made?
Well, what is clear is that Steve Witkoff, Trump's envoy, and Trump recognized that the deal to get back 33 of the 98 remaining hostages in exchange for 1,900 prisoners was a bad deal. And they want to try to get a better deal. However, the statements by Trump, in which he now is basically telling the Gazans they have lost the war and that they are going to leave the Strip, I think it could make it much more difficult to get back any of the remaining hostages. So we have to see. I mean, I think in the long term, what Trump is saying is correct. In the short term, it could make the situation in the Middle East even more dangerous.
Well, it certainly is making it more interesting as it figures itself out. Alex Traiman, as always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.